5 years had passed since the great battle that shattered the Galactic Council. Captain Steve Parker commanded the exploration vessel Pioneer as it surveyed the former Council territories. The galaxy was a very different place now, filled with both the promise of freedom and the chaos that followed the Empire's collapse. President Alex Morgan had been elected in Earth's first post-war election on a platform of rebuilding and reconciliation. His administration worked with Ambassador Kate Williams to establish the new Galactic Federation based on voluntary cooperation rather than conquest. Not every species appreciated humanity's gift of freedom, but most were learning to embrace it. Some liberated worlds had thrived in the years since independence. The mining colonies of Alpha Centauri had become prosperous trading partners with Earth. The agricultural worlds of the Vega system now fed dozens of species that had once gone hungry under Council rule. Freedom had brought prosperity to those willing to work for it. Other worlds struggled with the transition from slavery to independence. The factory planets of the Rigel sector had collapsed into civil war when their slave populations rose against their former overseers. Dr. Sandra Mitchell led humanitarian missions to such worlds, trying to rebuild what the war had destroyed. Admiral Roy Jackson commanded the new human space force, protecting shipping lanes and preventing the rise of new galactic warlords. Pirates and raiders had emerged from the chaos following the Council's defeat. Some were desperate survivors trying to feed their families. Others were former Council loyalists seeking revenge. The Andorian Republic had become humanity's closest ally in the new galactic order. Their species had been among the first to join the rebellion, and they shared human values of freedom and self-determination. Ambassador Williams spent much of her time negotiating new trade agreements with their representatives. Captain Lucy Thompson patrolled the border regions where Council remnants still operated from hidden bases. Her squadron hunted war criminals who had committed atrocities during the occupation years. Justice moved slowly, but it moved surely as each perpetrator was brought to trial. Not everyone in the galaxy blamed the Council for the current troubles. The Crystalline Collective had prospered under the old system and resented the chaos that followed human victory. They preferred the stability of slavery to the uncertainty of freedom and made no secret of their feelings. Engineer Bobby Chen worked on New Geneva Station, where representatives from 400 species met to discuss galactic affairs. The station was humanity's greatest construction project since the war, a symbol of cooperation and unity floating in the void between star systems. The new galactic assembly was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of conquest and submission, it operated on principles of voluntary participation and mutual benefit. Species could join or leave as they chose. Trade was based on fair exchange rather than exploitation. Captain Sam Wright, now an old man, watched young humans and aliens training together for deep space exploration missions. The next generation was growing up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, and slavery was a historical memory. They would explore new worlds as partners rather than conquerors. Dr. Gary Phillips continued his research into advanced alien technologies, but now he shared his discoveries freely with any species that requested them. The knowledge that had once been hoarded by the Council was becoming available to everyone who could use it responsibly. Some species had joined the Federation immediately after liberation. Others remained suspicious of any large organization after centuries of Council oppression. A few had retreated into isolation, preferring to rebuild their societies without outside interference. The Federation respected all these choices. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, now a colonel, commanded the advanced training facility on Luna, where the galaxy's best pilots learned to work together. Her students included representatives from dozens of species who had once been enemies. They were learning that diversity made them stronger. The industrial worlds of the Tau Ceti system had become the Federation's manufacturing center. Former slave laborers now owned the factories where they had once toiled. Production had initially declined after liberation, but it was rising again as workers gained motivation to excel. Captain Rick Anderson led scientific expeditions to unexplored regions of the galaxy. His missions discovered new worlds and new species that had never known Council rule. These virgin civilizations provided hope for what galactic society could become, without the corruption of empire. Trade flourished in the new galaxy as species that had been forbidden to interact under council rule began exchanging goods and ideas. The Aquarian traders brought exotic materials from their ocean worlds. The silicon-based builders offered construction services that could reshape entire planets. Admiral Peter Stone established the Galactic Defense Academy, where officers from multiple species learned to protect the Federation's values. The Academy taught that strength came from unity and cooperation rather than conquest and oppression. Its graduates would prevent the rise of new empires. Some council survivors had adapted to the new reality and become productive citizens of the Federation. They provided valuable knowledge about galactic history and technology. Others remained bitter about their lost empire and plotted to restore the old order through violence and subversion. The liberation of the galaxy had created unexpected problems. Species that had been separated for centuries suddenly found themselves neighbors. Again, old territorial disputes resurfaced. Ancient grudges that the Council had suppressed through force now required diplomatic solutions. President Morgan addressed these challenges by promoting cultural exchange programs. Young people from different species spent time living and working on other worlds. They learned that differences in appearance and custom masked fundamental similarities in hopes and dreams. Captain Julie Adams commanded the deep space exploration fleet that was mapping regions beyond the old Council boundaries. Her ships discovered that the galaxy was far larger and more diverse than anyone had imagined. New civilizations offered fresh perspectives on cooperation and freedom. The memorial to the fallen on Earth had become a pilgrimage site for beings from across the galaxy. The names of every human who died in the war were inscribed alongside representatives of other species who had fought for freedom. Their sacrifice was remembered by grateful generations. Engineer Mike Davis designed the new starships that carried Federation explorers to distant worlds. These vessels were built for discovery rather than conquest. They carried scientists and diplomats instead of weapons and soldiers. Each ship represented humanity's commitment to peaceful expansion. The economic prosperity that followed liberation surprised many experts who had predicted chaos and collapse. Free beings worked harder and produced more than slaves ever had. Innovation flourished when individuals could benefit from their own creativity and effort. Dr. Nicole Barnes established medical colleges throughout Federation space, where healers from different species shared their knowledge. Diseases that had plagued individual worlds for millennia were being cured through cooperative research. Life expectancy was rising across the galaxy. Captain Frank Miller retired from military service to become a teacher at the Diplomatic Corps Academy. Former soldiers from both sides of the war learned to resolve conflicts through negotiation rather than violence. His classes were always oversubscribed with eager students. The warning came through quantum communications channels that spanned the galaxy. Prince Dakthul of the old Vorthan nobility had assembled a fleet of council survivors and disaffected species. Their message was simple. The galaxy would be purged of human influence, and the natural order would be restored. Admiral Lisa Carter received the intelligence reports in her office at Fleet Command. The Revenge Fleet included ships from a dozen species that blamed humanity for the chaos following liberation. They had spent 5 years gathering strength for one final assault on Earth. Prince Dakthul broadcast his ultimatum across all communication frequencies. The humans had destroyed galactic peace and stability. They would now face the consequences of their arrogance. Earth would burn, and humanity would be exterminated as an example to other upstart species. Captain Lucy Thompson smiled grimly as she read the enemy fleet composition. The prince had made the same mistake as his predecessors by underestimating human capabilities. What he did not realize was that the attack on Earth was exactly what humanity had been preparing for during 5 years of peace. The Battle of Sol's Edge lasted only 6 hours. The Revenge Fleet found Earth defended by ships incorporating 5 years of captured alien technology and crewed by mixed human-alien teams. The attackers were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely outmatched by forces they had not expected to encounter. Prince Dakthul died cursing humanity's name as his flagship, exploded under concentrated fire from Federation vessels. His final words blamed humans for destroying the galaxy's natural order. He never understood that the old order had been built on fear and oppression rather than natural law. The victory was so complete that it effectively ended organized resistance to the new galactic order. The surviving Council remnants scattered to the farthest reaches of space, no longer a threat to Federation worlds. The battle for Earth began at dawn on the third Tuesday of humanity's darkest hour. Admiral Peter Stone coordinated the defense from his flagship deep in space, while General Linda Brooks commanded the orbital fortresses that ringed the planet. 2,000 alien ships faced a mixed fleet of human vessels and liberated species that numbered less than 400. High Counselor Malthorn watched the human defenses from his massive command ship and felt confident in his overwhelming numerical advantage. The planet-killer weapons would end this rebellion within hours. No species in galactic history had ever survived such firepower. Earth would become dust, and humanity would become a cautionary tale. Captain Sharon Hayes led the first wave of human fighters against the alien outer screen. Her squadron included pilots from 12 different species who had joined the fight for freedom. They struck hard and fast, using tactics developed during 2 years of desperate warfare against superior technology. The opening engagement cost humanity 30 ships in the first 10 minutes. Alien energy weapons carved through human formations with devastating efficiency. But the humans had learned to fight smart rather than fair. For every ship they lost, they took 2 alien vessels with them. Dr. Gary Phillips monitored his secret weapons from deep underground bunkers scattered across Earth. The planet-killer defense system was humanity's greatest gamble. If it failed, Earth would die. If it succeeded, the psychological impact on the Council forces might turn the tide of battle. Chief Engineer Mike Davis watched his planetary shield generators strain under the alien bombardment. The energy barriers flickered and sparked as Council warships poured devastating fire into Earth's defenses. Several shield sections failed completely, leaving gaps that enemy forces immediately exploited. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Peterson led ground forces in desperate fighting around the shield generator stations. Alien Marines had landed on Earth's surface and were attempting to destroy the defensive systems from within. Her soldiers fought building by building to protect the installations. The battle raged for 6 days without pause. Human forces used every trick they had learned during 2 years of warfare. They hid among asteroids, struck from unexpected angles, and coordinated with rebel fleets that emerged from hyperspace throughout the galaxy. Captain Frank Miller led simultaneous attacks on Council strongholds in distant star systems. His orders were to draw alien reinforcements away from Earth while striking at the enemy's strategic centers. The gamble worked as confused Council commanders split their forces to respond to multiple threats. Admiral Kevin Ross died on the 4th day of fighting when his battleship Constitution took a direct hit from a Council dreadnought. His last order was to ram his crippled vessel into the alien command ship. The collision destroyed both vessels and gave human forces precious time to regroup. Colonel Janet Foster sacrificed herself and her entire special operations team to destroy a Council troop transport attempting to land additional forces on Earth's surface. Her unit's demolition charges detonated the enemy ship's fuel tanks, creating a fireball visible from orbit. The turning point came when the Vortons finally deployed their planet-killer weapons. 12 massive energy beams lanced down toward Earth's surface, carrying enough power to crack continents and boil oceans. The Council fleet watched in satisfaction as humanity faced inevitable extinction. Dr. Phillips activated his defense system at the moment of maximum danger. Earth's planetary shields absorbed the world destroyer beams and channeled the energy through a network of hidden focusing crystals. The alien weapon's own power was reflected back at the Council fleet with devastating results. The redirected energy struck the Vorthon formation like the fist of an angry god. Hundreds of ships vaporized instantly as their own ultimate weapons turned against them. The psychological impact was even more devastating than the physical destruction. The Council's most powerful weapons had failed completely. Panic spread through the alien fleet as commanders realized their planet killers had been neutralized and turned into a weapon against them. For the first time in galactic history, the Council's ultimate threat had not only failed but backfired catastrophically. Captain Julie Adams coordinated the human counterattack as rebel fleets emerged from hyperspace throughout Council territory. The simultaneous strikes hit 12 major alien strongholds, while their main fleet was trapped in Earth's solar system. The thousand-year empire began collapsing in real time. High Counselor Malthorn watched his empire crumble on tactical displays that showed rebellion erupting across the galaxy. Species that had served the Council for centuries were turning on, their masters. The human example had inspired a galactic revolution that could not be stopped. Commander Zefak died when his flagship exploded under concentrated fire from a human destroyer squadron. The alien officer, who had dismissed Earth as primitive, spent his final moments watching humans demonstrate the true meaning of advanced warfare through superior tactics and unbreakable will. General Marcus Stone led the assault on the Council, homeworld while Earth's battle still raged. His mixed fleet of human and alien rebels struck at the heart of galactic government, while its forces were committed elsewhere. The capital fell within hours, as local populations joined the uprising. The cost of victory was measured in billions of lives across dozens of worlds. Earth's population had been cut in half during the fighting. Entire cities lay in radioactive ruins. The orbital shipyards where humanity had built its fleet were nothing but debris clouds in space. Captain Jake Morrison survived the battle but lost his ship and most of his crew in the final assault on the Council command vessel. The young officer who had fired the first shot against alien tyranny lived to see freedom triumph, though the price had been almost too high to bear. Dr. Nicole Barnes worked frantically to treat casualties in the underground medical facilities that had become Earth's hospitals. The wounded came in endless streams from the surface fighting and orbital battles. Her team saved who they could and mourned those they could not. Admiral Lisa Carter coordinated the surrender negotiations with surviving Council forces from her battle-damaged command center. The terms were simple: complete withdrawal from human space and recognition of independence for all liberated species. There would be no mercy for those who had enslaved the galaxy. The battle officially ended when the last Council ship fled Earth's solar system in defeat. Humanity had achieved the impossible by defeating a galactic empire through determination, sacrifice, and refusal to accept slavery as inevitable. But victory came at a cost that would haunt survivors forever. Captain Rick Anderson led the pursuit of fleeing Council forces deep into space. His orders were to ensure they could never return and threaten Earth again. The hunter had become the hunted as human ships chased their former oppressors across the galaxy. Engineer Lisa Davis surveyed the wreckage of Earth's orbital installations and began planning for reconstruction. The damage was enormous, but humanity had proven they could rebuild anything if they put their minds to it. The same determination that won the war would restore their world. Private Sarah Kim received promotion to captain after her fighter squadron distinguished itself in the final battles. The young pilot who had learned to fly during the darkest days of the war would help train a new generation of human defenders. The galaxy would never be the same after the battle for Earth. An empire that had ruled for 1,000 years was broken in 6 days of fighting. Millions of ships had been destroyed. Dozens of worlds were in chaos. The old order was dead and something new was being born from its ashes. High Counselor Malthorn spent his final moments before capture trying to understand how his superior forces had been defeated by a primitive species. He died still believing that Vorthan technology should have guaranteed victory, never comprehending that arrogance and underestimation had sealed his fate. Dr. Paul Henderson began the long process of documenting everything humanity had learned during the war. Future generations would need to understand both the cost of freedom and the dangers of overconfidence. The lessons written in blood and sacrifice could never be forgotten. The surviving Council forces scattered to distant corners of the galaxy, but they carried with them a new understanding of human capabilities. The species they had dismissed as primitive had destroyed their empire and rewritten the rules of galactic civilization. Captain Ben Parker led relief missions to liberated worlds where freed slaves struggled to build new lives. The human example had inspired revolution, but revolution was only the beginning. Teaching former slaves how to remain free would be humanity's next great challenge. Earth stood victorious but scarred. surrounded by the debris of the greatest space battle in history. The planet that aliens had planned to destroy now served as the capital of a new galactic order based on freedom rather than fear. The universe had paid a terrible price for underestimating humanity, but it had also learned that liberty was worth any sacrifice. 2 years had passed since the first alien ships appeared near Mars. Captain Rick Anderson guided the human vessel Defiance through the asteroid belt, hunting Vorthan supply convoys. His ship bore scars from dozens of battles, but it remained one of the most effective raiders in the human fleet. The war had spread far beyond Earth's solar system. Human ships now struck at alien positions throughout the local star cluster. What had begun as a defensive campaign had transformed into an aggressive offensive that threatened Galactic Council control over multiple sectors. Colonel Janet Foster crouched in the ruins of an alien supply depot on Kepler 442b. Her special operations team had taught the local slave population how to make explosives from common materials. The rebellion that started on Earth was spreading to other worlds as oppressed species learned that resistance was possible. Admiral Carol Turner received intelligence reports in her command center aboard the battleship Enterprise. Human spies had infiltrated several alien installations using captured technology and stolen identity codes. The information they gathered revealed shocking truths about the Galactic Council's true nature. The mighty empire that ruled the galaxy was built on fear rather than strength. Thousands of species remained loyal only because they believed resistance was impossible. The Council maintained control through careful propaganda and the appearance of overwhelming power rather than actual military superiority. Dr. Susan Wright analyzed captured alien databases in her research facility on Luna. The data revealed that most Council member species possessed technology equal to or superior to the Vorthans. They remained subservient because they had never seen successful rebellion and feared the consequences of failure. Commander Zefak faced increasing pressure from the Galactic Council High Command. His campaign against Earth had lasted far longer than any previous conquest. Worse, reports were arriving of rebellion and unrest on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy as news of human resistance spread. The alien commander requested permission to deploy planet-killer weapons against Earth. These massive devices could crack worlds in half and had been used only twice in galactic history. The Council debated the request while watching their empire slowly unravel. Captain Ben Parker led a squadron of human fighters in a desperate attack on an alien communications hub. His mission was to disrupt Council broadcasts that portrayed humans as defeated and helpless. The propaganda war had become as important as the shooting war. Young engineer Lisa Davis worked around the clock to improve human weapon systems. Her team had successfully reverse-engineered alien energy weapons and adapted them for use on human ships. Each technological breakthrough gave humanity a better chance of survival in the escalating conflict. The rebellion spread to the Centauri system when local miners rose against their alien overseers. Human advisors had spent months teaching them guerrilla tactics and sabotage techniques. The uprising succeeded in liberating 3 worlds and establishing an independent human colony. General Marcus Stone coordinated military operations across 40 star systems from his mobile command ship. Human forces now operated in 12 different sectors, striking at Council positions and encouraging local rebellions. The war had grown beyond anything the aliens had imagined possible. High Counselor Malthorn reviewed casualty reports from across the galaxy. The human rebellion had cost the Council more ships and personnel than the previous century of normal operations. More troubling were the reports of defection among Council member species who questioned continued loyalty. Captain Sharon Hayes commanded a mixed fleet of human ships and vessels crewed by liberated aliens. Her force included refugees from 6 different species who had joined the fight for freedom. The coalition represented a new kind of galactic alliance based on cooperation rather than conquest. The Council voted to deploy their ultimate weapons against Earth. 12 planet-killer devices would be transported to the Sol system aboard a massive fleet of 2,000 warships. The demonstration would end the rebellion and restore order to the galaxy through overwhelming terror. Dr. Gary Phillips worked frantically in his secret laboratory to complete humanity's most ambitious project. Using captured alien technology, His team had developed Earth's own superweapons capable of matching Council planet killers. The race was on to finish the weapons before the alien fleet arrived. Lieutenant Commander Mike Davis supervised the installation of planetary defense shields around Earth. The massive energy barriers were based on alien technology but powered by human fusion reactors. If they worked correctly, Earth might survive the coming attack. Captain Julie Adams received orders to coordinate with rebel fleets throughout the galaxy. Her mission was to time simultaneous attacks on Council strongholds to coincide with their assault on Earth. The plan was desperate, but it represented humanity's best chance for victory. The slave species of the galaxy watched the approaching confrontation with growing excitement. For the first time in centuries, someone had successfully challenged Council authority. If humans could survive the ultimate test, it would prove that freedom was possible for everyone. Commander Frank Miller led a scouting mission to observe the massive alien fleet assembling near the Council homeworld. The sight was terrifying beyond description. Thousands of ships stretching across space, armed with weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. Engineer Tony Green finished construction of the last planetary shield generator just hours before alien scouts entered the outer solar system. Earth's defenses were as ready as human technology could make them, but no one knew if they would be sufficient against planet-killer weapons. Dr. Nicole Barnes coordinated the evacuation of non-essential personnel from Earth's surface. Millions of civilians were transported to underground bunkers and off-world colonies. Those who remained were volunteers who chose to stay and fight regardless of the consequences. The Galactic Council fleet entered human space with overwhelming confidence. High Counselor Malthorn personally commanded the expedition, determined to end the rebellion with a display of power that would be remembered for millennia. Earth would become an object lesson in the futility of resistance. Admiral Lisa Carter prepared Earth's final defenses from her command bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean. Human forces were outnumbered by more than 50-1, but they had advantages the aliens could not understand. Determination, creativity, and absolute refusal to surrender would have to compensate for inferior numbers. Captain Jake Morrison took command of the destroyer squadron assigned to protect the orbital defense platforms. His ships were the last line of defense before the aliens reached Earth itself. The young officer who had fired the first shot of the war would now help fight its most crucial battle. The approaching alien fleet detected unexpected activity throughout the solar system. Instead of the broken human resistance they expected to find, they encountered a fully operational defensive network, supported by ships from dozens of liberated species. The rebels had turned Earth into a fortress. Colonel Amy Peterson reviewed intelligence reports about the incoming Council forces. Human spies had provided detailed information about alien ship capabilities and battle plans. The element of surprise that had served the Council so well in previous conquests was no longer available. Private Sarah Kim prepared her fighter squadron for the coming battle. She had survived 2 years of desperate combat and become one of humanity's most experienced pilots. Her unit would lead the initial attack on the alien fleet's outer screen. Dr. Paul Henderson monitored the planetary defense grid from his control center in Colorado. The shields that protected Earth represented the pinnacle of human engineering, combined with alien technology. In a few hours, they would face the ultimate test against weapons designed to destroy worlds. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. The outcome would determine not only humanity's fate, but the future of freedom throughout the galaxy. Thousands of species watched and waited to see if the impossible dream of successful rebellion could become reality. High Counselor Malthorn ordered his fleet to begin the attack on Earth. The planet-killer weapons charged their massive energy banks while escort ships moved to eliminate human defenses. The greatest military engagement in galactic history was about to commence. Captain Rick Anderson led his Raider squadron in a desperate attack on the alien fleet's support vessels. His mission was to disrupt their supply lines and create confusion in their ranks. Every delay might give Earth's defenders precious additional time to prepare. The battle that would reshape the galaxy began with the largest space engagement in recorded history. Human determination would face Council technology, in a conflict that would determine whether freedom or slavery ruled among the stars. 6 months passed before the Galactic Council returned to Earth. Fleet Admiral Kevin Ross stood on the bridge of the battleship Constitution and watched 200 alien warships emerge from hyperspace near Jupiter. The sight made his stomach clench with fear, but his face remained calm for his crew's sake. Colonel Amy Peterson reviewed the ground defense preparations from her command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. Every major city on Earth had been evacuated and fortified. Civilians had been moved to underground shelters while military forces prepared for planetary invasion. She knew the preparations were inadequate, but humans had to try. The Vorthan fleet advanced slowly through the solar system, broadcasting messages about humanity's inevitable defeat. Commander Zefak had been promoted after his initial contact with Earth, and he now commanded the largest punitive expedition in Galactic Council history. The humans would be made an example that would prevent future rebellions. Captain Danny Walsh commanded a squadron of 12 human destroyers positioned near Jupiter's moons. His orders were to harass the alien advance and gather intelligence about their tactics. Every man and woman in his squadron knew they were facing certain death, but they held their positions anyway. The first battle began when Walsh's destroyers opened fire on the alien fleet's outer screen. Human missiles and energy weapons struck fourth-hand shields without causing significant damage. The aliens responded with devastating precision, destroying 8 human ships in the first exchange of fire. Commander Susan Miller watched from Luna Base as her orbital defense platforms engaged the advancing enemy. The platforms had been hastily constructed using the best human technology available, but they seemed primitive compared to alien weapons. One by one, her installations fell silent under the enemy bombardment. Engineer Bobby Chen worked desperately in the shipyards of Mars to improve human armor plating. His teams analyzed wreckage from the first encounters and discovered ways to deflect some alien energy. The improvements were small, but they gave human ships a slightly better chance of survival in combat. Dr. Nicole Barnes made a breakthrough in her laboratory on Luna. She found that rapid frequency modulation could disrupt alien targeting systems for brief periods. Her discovery allowed human shields to absorb more punishment before failing. Every extra second of survival mattered in the desperate struggle. General Tim Jackson commanded the overall human defense strategy from his headquarters on Earth. He realized that conventional tactics would never work against superior alien technology. Humans needed to fight unpredictably, using methods that would confuse the rigid alien military doctrine. The Vorthian forces expected humans to group their ships into traditional battle formations. Instead, Jackson ordered scattered guerrilla attacks that struck without warning and retreated before the aliens could respond effectively. Human ships hid among asteroids and used hit-and-run tactics that frustrated enemy commanders. Lieutenant Commander Tony Green volunteered for the most dangerous mission of the war. His plan involved loading civilian cargo ships with nuclear warheads and flying them directly into the heart of the alien fleet. The suicide attack would demonstrate human determination to fight regardless of the cost. Green's squadron of 20 converted freighters approached the Vorthan formation while broadcasting fake surrender signals. The aliens held their fire, expecting another species to break under pressure. Instead, the human ships detonated their nuclear payload simultaneously, destroying dozens of enemy vessels. The sacrifice bought time for other human forces to regroup and counterattack. Admiral Ross coordinated a desperate assault on the alien fleet's command ship while it was still recovering from the nuclear detonations. The attack failed, but it proved that humans could hurt their enemies. Factory worker Maria Rodriguez labored 18 hours every day building weapons and ammunition for the war effort. She had lost her son in the first battle near Jupiter, but grief only made her work harder. Every bullet and missile she produced might save another human life. Farmer Bill Thompson converted his agricultural equipment into military vehicles using plans distributed by the resistance. His tractors became mobile missile launchers. His irrigation systems became communication networks. Even civilians far from the fighting contributed to humanity's survival. The alien commanders began to worry as human resistance continued far longer than expected. Previous conquered species had surrendered within days or weeks. Earth had been fighting for months with no sign of breaking. Some Vorthon officers suggested calling for reinforcements. Commander Zefak refused to request additional forces. His pride would not allow him to admit that primitive humans required more than 200 warships to defeat. He ordered increasingly brutal attacks on human positions, hoping to break their morale through overwhelming violence. The strategy backfired completely. Each atrocity committed by the aliens only strengthened human determination to resist. Civilians, who had considered surrender after seeing their cities destroyed instead, volunteered for the most dangerous combat missions. Fear transformed into rage. Captain Rick Anderson took command of the destroyer Defiance after its original captain died in battle. His crew had been reduced to half strength, but the survivors fought with desperate courage. They developed new tactics daily, adapting to alien responses faster than the enemy could counter. Human ships began working in coordination with defensive installations and ground-based weapons. The integrated defense network allowed Earth's forces to concentrate firepower on individual alien targets while avoiding direct confrontation with superior numbers. Dr. Gary Phillips reverse-engineered captured alien technology in his secret laboratory. Each breakthrough provided new weapons or defensive systems for human forces. His work was slow and dangerous, but it gradually narrowed the technological gap between the species. Colonel Janet Foster led covert operations against alien supply lines. Her special forces teams used captured alien equipment to infiltrate enemy positions and plant explosives. The attacks forced the Vorthons to divert resources from frontline combat to protect their rear areas. The war's character changed as months passed. What had begun as a simple conquest became a grinding struggle of attrition. Human forces learned to avoid direct confrontation while striking at vulnerable targets. Alien casualties mounted steadily despite their technological advantages. Young, pilot Sarah Kim shot down her first alien fighter using tactics developed by human ace pilots. She had trained for only 6 weeks before entering combat, but desperation made humans learn faster than ever before. Every day brought new innovations. In human fighting techniques, Admiral Carter coordinated resistance efforts across the solar system from her mobile command center. She moved constantly to avoid alien detection while maintaining communication with scattered human forces. Her leadership held the defense together when everything seemed hopeless. The Galactic Council received disturbing reports about the Earth campaign. Human resistance had lasted far longer than predicted, and other species in the galaxy were beginning to notice. Some subject worlds were asking why it took so many ships to defeat one primitive planet. Commander Zefak realized he faced a choice between victory and reputation. He could call for massive reinforcements and guarantee success, but doing so would advertise the Council's weakness. He could continue the current campaign and risk eventual defeat by an inferior enemy. Captain Morrison survived the early battles and found himself promoted to squadron commander. His experience fighting aliens made him valuable beyond his rank. He trained new pilots in the harsh lessons learned from months of desperate combat against superior foes. The Liberty had been destroyed and rebuilt twice during the campaign. Each new version incorporated lessons learned from previous battles. Human ships evolved rapidly as engineers applied captured technology and battlefield experience to create more effective weapons. Commander Susan Miller coordinated the defense of Earth's orbital space from her new command post on the Moon. Her defensive network had been rebuilt 3 times, but each iteration was stronger than the last. Human engineering improved under the pressure of constant combat. The aliens began to understand they had made a serious error in their assessment of human capabilities. These creatures did not fight like any species the Council had encountered before. They seemed to grow stronger under pressure rather than weaker. They refused to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Private Jake Stevens defended a supply depot on Mars against alien ground forces. His squad of 8 humans held off an alien company for 3 days using improvised weapons and desperate tactics. Their success inspired similar resistance efforts across the solar system. The war entered its 2nd year with no clear resolution in sight. Human forces had learned to survive against superior alien technology through cunning, determination, and willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom. The galaxy was beginning to notice that Earth had not fallen as predicted. The massive alien ship appeared near Mars without warning. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Liberty and watched the impossible sight through the main view screen. The alien craft was enormous, easily 10 times larger than the biggest human ship ever built. Its dark metal surface gleamed with strange lights that pulsed in patterns no human could understand. Admiral Lisa Carter received the first reports at Houston Command while drinking her morning coffee. The cup fell from her hands and shattered on the floor as she read the sensor data. After decades of searching for alien life, they had finally found Earth. Or rather, they had found Earth. Dr. Paul Henderson was in his laboratory in Colorado when the alerts came through. He dropped his research on quantum physics and rushed to the communications array. As Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien contact, he had prepared for this moment his entire career. He just never expected it to happen so suddenly. The alien ship broadcast its message on all frequencies. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English with no emotion. Commander Zefak of the Vorthan Empire announced that Earth had been selected for integration into the Galactic Council. Humanity had 72 hours to surrender unconditionally and accept their new role as servants to the galaxy's ruling powers. The message explained that resistance was pointless. The Galactic Council had conquered 847 other species across the galaxy. None had ever successfully opposed them. Earth's primitive technology and small population made victory impossible. Surrender would bring peace and stability under Vorthan rule. President Helen Brooks sat in the Oval Office and listened to the ultimatum 3 times. Her advisors argued among themselves about the proper response. Some wanted to negotiate. Others suggested immediate surrender to avoid bloodshed. A few brave souls whispered about fighting back, though they admitted the odds seemed impossible. Captain Morrison received orders to maintain a safe distance and observe the alien vessel. His crew of 35 men and women had trained for combat against other humans, not beings from another world. The weapons on the Liberty seemed like toys compared to the massive energy cannons visible on the alien ship's hull. The Vorthan commander found the situation amusing. His species had performed this same ritual hundreds of times before. The pattern never changed. First came shock and fear, then desperate attempts at negotiation. Finally, complete surrender within the allotted time. Some species tried to fight, but their resistance lasted only minutes before they begged for mercy. Commander Zefak reviewed the intelligence reports about Earth. The humans possessed basic nuclear weapons and simple spacecraft that could barely reach their own moon. Their largest ships carried fewer than 50 people. Their most powerful bombs could destroy cities but not continents. By Vorthan standards, they were children playing with sticks and stones. Dr. Henderson worked frantically to analyze the alien technology. The ship's energy signature was beyond anything in human science. Their communication system operated on principles that human physics could not explain. Even their basic materials seemed impossibly advanced. If this came to a fight, humanity would be outmatched in every possible way. Admiral Carter assembled Earth's defense forces, though she knew the effort was mostly symbolic. The entire human fleet consisted of 23 combat vessels and 42 support ships. Most were designed for missions within the solar system. Only a handful could operate effectively in deep space for extended periods. The alien ultimatum spread across Earth's media networks. Panic gripped major cities as people realized their planet faced invasion by a superior alien force. Some religious leaders declared the end times had arrived. Others called for immediate surrender to preserve human life. A few urged resistance, regardless of the cost. President Brooks made her decision after consulting with military leaders and scientists. She recorded a simple response message that would change the course of galactic history. Her words were calm and clear, delivered without fear or anger. She thanked the Vorthan Empire for their message and politely declined their offer of integration. The president's response continued with a counter-proposal. Earth requested that the alien vessel leave the solar system within 24 hours. If they refused, humanity would consider their presence an act of war and respond accordingly. The message ended with an invitation for peaceful trade relations if the aliens chose to respect Earth's sovereignty. Commander Zefak played the human response for his senior officers. The bridge erupted in laughter at human audacity. Several officers made jokes about primitive species that did not understand their place in the galaxy. The commander decided to provide a demonstration of Vorthon power to educate these foolish humans. The alien ship fired a single energy beam at an abandoned mining station orbiting Europa. The structure vaporized instantly, leaving only glowing particles where a facility the size of a city had stood moments before. The display of power was meant to break human resolve and force immediate surrender. Captain Morrison watched the destruction through his sensors and felt his blood run cold. The aliens had just demonstrated they could wipe out any target in the solar system without effort. His ship's weapons could not even scratch their shields. Every rational analysis suggested that resistance was suicide. Instead of panic, Morrison felt something else rising in his chest. Anger burned through his fear as he realized these aliens expected humans to kneel without a fight. They thought Earth would surrender simply because they possessed superior weapons. They had made one critical error in their calculations. Liberty's captain opened a channel to Admiral Carter and requested permission to respond to the alien demonstration. His plan was dangerous and probably futile, but it would send a clear message about human intentions. Carter approved the mission after only a moment's hesitation. Morrison ordered his crew to prepare the kinetic bombardment system originally designed for asteroid mining operations. They loaded the largest projectile in their inventory and aimed it at the alien ship's shields. The weapon was primitive compared to energy beams, but it carried the combined force of human determination and refusal to submit. The metal projectile struck the Vorthon shields at tremendous velocity. The impact sent shockwaves through the alien vessel and caused several decks to lose power temporarily. No serious damage resulted, but the psychological effect was profound. For the first time in centuries, a primitive species had dared to fire the first shot. Commander Zefak stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The humans had actually attacked his ship. Their weapon was laughably weak, but the intent was unmistakable. These creatures were prepared to fight against impossible odds rather than accept the natural order of galactic civilization. President Brooks received Captain Morrison's action report and smiled grimly. The die had been cast. Earth had chosen war over slavery, death over submission. The aliens would learn that humans possessed something their advanced technology could not measure or understand. They would discover the price of underestimating a species willing to die for freedom.